What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to discuss why most option sellers lose money and how you can win. But first, let's go over the account status and where we're at. So, if you watched yesterday's episode, you would have saw we took this DocuSign play and we're still in it. We have the earnings report later today. Right now, not much has changed. We're just sitting at basically a break even. And if we pull up the DocuSign chart, right, we'll just take a look. So this is where it's sitting, and ultimately this is where our strike price is. So I feel pretty good about this play. Assuming it goes up, then tomorrow we'll be able to just collect the full premium. Assuming it goes down, we'll see how far it goes down and take it from there. But regardless, I anticipate, an IV crush, and I anticipate the premiums dumping and us being able to collect profit regardless of where it goes, right? Because keep in mind, it has to expire below 78 in order for us to get assigned. So if it expires at any penny above it, we will just collect our premium. Now, of course, again, if it already makes a big move towards the upside, then we won't even have to wait for expiration. We'll be able to get full profit by tomorrow after a move and an IV crush. So not really anything's changed with that play. I did want to go over yesterday's play, which was these clean spark puts. So let's just take a look at both this one and then the other play from earlier this week, which was MSTX. So these clean spark puts are at 13.50, or sorry, the strike 13.50 are at 8 cents. Now we exited at 21 cents. So 14, right? We exited 14 contracts at 21 cents, which means we actually cost ourselves $180. So that's the thing about investing, trading, all of this, right, is, and I've said it on this channel, the studies show that the people who make less decisions make more money. And here's a prime example, right? Because I wanted to get in this DocuSign play for earnings, but I could have waited because the premium is exactly where it was when I entered. And if I would have waited and just stayed in that clean spark position, I would have made an extra $180 had I just waited and got in the DocuSign play right now. Now, it was the same thing with MSTX, which is a play we took earlier this week, right? We sold puts on the 75 strike, and that 75 strike is worth 35 cents now. Let's see, where did we get out? I think we got out at $2.40. So we cost ourselves roughly $200 to $400 on that position as well. So that's the update with the account. I'll let you guys know tomorrow where this ends up. But if you're watching the DocuSign chart and you see it shoot up later after earnings, then you'll know, we should have made an extra, let's see, $1.60 times 3. So we should be up 500, assuming, it goes up today. If it doesn't, then ideally it just expires above 78 and we'll make our 500 tomorrow. So that's really that with that position. Now, how do we avoid big losses in the world of option selling? So there's really 3 things that we have to do, right? The first thing is picking a stock that's trending up, right? So in this case, Clean Spark, right, has been clearly trending up as of recent, right? Obviously, crypto has been extremely bullish, which, I will admit yesterday I said that Bitcoin was going to pull back and it was at 94. It obviously exploded up. And that's the beautiful part about something like option selling, right? Is you can be wrong and still make money, right? Whether it goes up or down, as long as it doesn't go down too much and as long as it goes up, no matter what, you're going to be making money, right? There's so many ways to trade where you could be actually losing money, right? Let's just say you're trading with leverage and you have a stop loss and it stops you out and then goes up the way you thought it would, which any advanced trader has dealt with that, which is the worst feeling ever, right? It's like when the market makes a move against you, takes you out of the position, then goes up. Maybe you could be shorting, right? Which if you're shorting this market, good luck, right? But there are people, because the way the market goes is it'll only go up until the last person to short is no longer shorting, right? So as long as the market's going up, there's always someone shorting it. So be thankful that that's not you, right? But that's the thing about option selling is I decided to stay away from crypto because I was like, you know what? Bitcoin's way up. It looks like it's making a lower high. And, just like that, on a dime, it stops and goes higher. So even though I was wrong, I'm still profiting, right, from these cash secured puts. So that's why option selling is just phenomenal. It's because you don't need to be this expert, right? You just need to take plays that make sense. So that's the first thing, right? Is picking a stock that's trending up. So if we look at a long list of stocks, right, what would be a stock you probably want to avoid right now? We'll look at Alibaba, right? This stock has been on a steady downtrend, right? And if you've been trying to catch the bottom and sell cash secured puts or covered calls, you're probably been losing money. Now, with that being said, right, the top was, I mean, this is in 2024. So look at this. The top is, oh my God, So that I didn't even realize I was so zoomed in, right? If you've been selling puts on this since 2020, or selling cash covered calls, you'd be down 70%. Now, the beautiful part, right, and this is something I've discussed in a previous video, is even if this was the only stock that you've been selling options on, you'd be down 70% in 4 years. Right now we're averaging 10% per month with the premiums that we're collecting. I mean, honestly, we did 18% our first month, so I can't even say we're averaging 10%. 1 month in, we've done 18%. So even if this was the only stock that we had been selling options that's down 70% after 4 years, we should either be still in the green or at least close to break even. But statistically, I think we would have to be in the green just because if we were averaging 10 to 20%, even if we were taking all of these losses. Now, here's the first thing. If you're doing cash secured puts, your strike is almost always going to be 5 to 10% away. And I guess that will be point number 2 of why people lose, is they're picking the wrong strikes, right? So if you're picking strikes that are at least 5 to 10% away, then you wouldn't have been absorbing this full 70%, right? You would only be absorbing every time it expires below your strike price, right? So even if this was the only stock that you were selling options on, over the 4 years that it's down 70%, you would still be either up or break even. I don't have a calculator right now to start typing and figuring out exactly the numbers, but just doing simple logic of the fact that we're able to generate 10 to 20% per month right now, in the worst possible case that you pick a stock that's just dumped for 4 years, like I said, at the very least, you'd still be in a decent position. But we don't want to be picking stocks that look like this, right? We don't want to be trying to time the bottom. We want to be picking stocks that look like this, right? So, Robinhood, Square. I mean, truthfully, majority of stocks are going up, right? When you look at it, there's always going to be downturns. There's always going to be extended downward trends. But majority of stocks, are rather bullish, right? It would be very hard for you to, pick a stock that's truly been going down. And again, even if you did, right, then you'd still probably be up in the long run. But with that being said, don't get married to any stock. If you're in, let's just say, something like BABA, and it's gone down month after month, pull the plug and move on to something else, right? Like waiting for BABA to recover, or any stock that's doing something like that, waiting for it to recover, there's a much better chance you're going to cost yourself a lot of money as opposed to flipping towards something that's just going up, immediately, right? And I don't know if you guys know, his name's Trader Tom. I read the book Best Loser Wins. And, he really just talks about how the market suffers from osmosis, right? So it's likely to continue doing whatever it's been doing, right? So if you're in something that's going up, there's a likelihood that it will continue going up. While if you're in something that's going down, there's a likelihood that it will continue going down. So that's the first thing, is picking stocks that are in a bull trend. The second thing is picking strikes that aren't too far. And honestly, picking strikes that aren't too close either, right? So let's just take an example. If we look at the DocuSign position we're in right now, let's see. So first things first, it has earnings. That's why these premiums are inflated, right? And that's part of why we do it. Now listen, a lot of these premiums are much closer, right? And you see they're paying better. But we picked 78. One, because the delta is relatively low, right? So since it's a 25 delta, that means it's a 75% chance it doesn't expire in the money. That's the first thing, right? It's like, we're not greedy in this case. We're collecting $500 in a couple days of a $20,000 account. And, we could pick these and make more money, yes. But let's just pull it up on the chart. Now, if you're someone who is like, oh, I've never read a chart, I don't know what I'm looking at. You don't need to overthink it, right? You go on a daily time frame, you go on a weekly time frame, and you just look for the low, right? Because the low is where the buyers are, right? It's really simple, right? I'm not trying to teach you guys advanced technical analysis, but it's really just like, you look at the last weekly and you see that the last weekly ended down here. If you can get a strike below it. So honestly, if I wanted to make more, I could have at least done a 79. I wouldn't have probably done anything higher, but that's really it. There's not much else to it that I'm going to start explaining to you with these charts, because the charts don't necessarily mean anything. It's just like a good place to give yourself, I guess what you can say, the best chance of winning, right? Because in the end of the day, even if DocuSign does completely fall down here, right, which only earnings would push it 10% in a week, but even if it does, chances are, right, when it takes out a low, it's almost always going to at least retrace back up, right? So like hypothetically, let's just say earnings sends it down here. Chances are it'll at least come back here before making the next move down, right? So if you're going to do cash secured puts and trade where, your strikes are at lows, you're giving yourself the ability to most likely, let's just say you get assigned, you sell covered calls the next week, and most likely get a chance to get out and be profitable, right? So that's what it comes down to is, you want stocks that have relative strength compared to the NASDAQ, right? Why? Because eventually the SPY, so listen, long term, yes, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are just straight up, right? But you see there's always these temporary times of weeks and months where it goes down. And if you're picking stocks where they've been strong, they're going to hold up well against those months, right? This was a tough time from 2022 all the way to, 2023. Would have been a very tough time to trade, right? Compared to all of this. Now, obviously, this is COVID. So, these types of events don't happen often, right? There's no reason to miss out on hundreds. Think about it. If this happens every 4 or 5 years and you're doing 20% a month, you're talking 500-600% on your portfolio. It's like you're going to, miss out on 600% because you're afraid of a 30% dump, So ultimately, you want to pick stocks that have looked strong with good news, good fundamentals, good earnings, because that's how you're going to survive these black swan events that are going to come, right? You can't predict it, but they will always eventually come. It's just humanity. And that's it, right? So the number one thing is picking stocks that are trending up, not trending down, picking strikes that aren't too close, and doing cash secured puts, right? Not covered calls until you get assigned on a cash secured put, because yes, covered calls can give you more money. So if you want to do it, go ahead. But again, we're trying to make money the most conservative way possible, right? If we can generate $10,000 a month selling cash secured puts in a bull trend, then what's going to happen when our cash secured puts get assigned and then we do covered calls? We're going to end up making 20K, 30K, 40K a month, right? So you want to put yourself in a position to make the most through the worst conditions, right? That's kind of how I look at it with this type of strategy, is how can I make the most money through the worst market conditions possible? Because times like right now in crypto, where even a blind squirrel can get rich, there's nothing impressive about it, and a lot of those people will lose it, right? So what you want to do is you want to put yourself in a position where when those people are losing it, you're still winning. And again, I'm involved in crypto. I'm making a lot just like everyone else. But there's a reason why I chose to diversify a percentage of my portfolio into this, because when that time does come and crypto does dump, I want to know I'm going to be able to make money from the markets regardless of what goes on. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. The account sits at 23.7, and I'll be back tomorrow for another update in regards to where we're at. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.